Hi guys and welcome back. Today's video is technically my Sketching Tuesday video, but I kind of got a little bit carried away with this one as far as the completion factor of this one. I really liked the sketch initially, so I decided I wanted to do a small watercolor in this video instead. And this very beginning, I'm showing you two different versions of basically the same piece. And the reason why I'm showing you this is because I did it first. I did one of them. And it turned out very much not what I wanted. And I wanted to show you guys what didn't work and how I moved on into the actual version that did end up working. But the first thing was that I needed to be able to accept that sometimes things just don't work and that it's okay to redo it. So this one, it kind of started off on a little bit rockier footing from the very beginning, but then I felt like, oh, okay, it's kind of working okay. And I decided to push past it. And when I got to the end, I realized it just wasn't what I wanted, and I can do a better job because of how bad I did this first one. I've learned things and I can implement that into the second piece. So if it's not obvious, the one that I felt like was not successful is the one where he has black hair with that ink. And it's, when I got to the last part, you could still see his eyes and everything, but I knew I was going to redo it anyway, so I decided just to fill in his eyes and give him this black drippy stuff. But that is the one that I decided that I needed to move on and do a better version. But one of the things specifically that I kind of went wrong with that one is that I wasn't very clear as far as exactly where I was going to put each color. And that meant that a lot of the colors ended up getting very muddy because I was layering warm colors on top of cool colors, and that desaturates them. And since I was doing that all over the painting with multiple different colors, it really brought it all down into this really kind of, like I said, muddy look to it. It didn't have the purity of the color that I would have liked if I had thought about the colors a little bit more thoroughly to begin with. As I was working on the one that didn't work, I ended up adding a little bit of yellow at the top, and I loved that gradient where it went from yellow to more of a red color down into a purple. I really loved that, but because I had already put down this coating of one color, it brought all of that color down to a very desaturated level. And that also happened with his skin. I didn't have an exact plan of attack as far as what colors I wanted to build up to the final version. So he did get a very muddied look to it, and I did overwork that area a little bit. Anyways, so after doing that piece, I was able to clearly see, okay, this is the thing that I didn't do right, and I'm going to do it better in the next one. So in this next one, I made sure that I was only painting on top of colors that were the similar colors or the similar value that I wanted, or the similar color temperature that I wanted. There we go. So you can get really gorgeous results with glazing, and I'll link to the video where I talk about glazing down in the description if you're curious, and probably in a card next to me. But glazing is just where you let the first layer dry and then you do another layer of transparent color so that combined they create a new value and a new color, and it's really a very beautiful technique. But I wanted to make sure that this also created a very saturated, pure color palette. And to be able to do that with glazing, you need to be very strategic about what colors you are layering on top of each other. So like I said, if you're layering, say, complementary colors or like warm and cools together, it will desaturate it and it will bring it down, which in a lot of cases, that's what you want. Sometimes in shadows, that's what you want. But this one, I knew that there were areas like the background where I wanted it to look a little bit more like a sunset. I wanted that purity to come out. So I made sure that when I was going over and doing these glazing layers, I was going over with similar colors. So at the bottom, I would go in with purple, and then I would fade it up into red. And when I did another layer, I might blend up the purple a little bit higher up onto the red. But since they're very similar, it still had that clarity that I wanted, but it helped with the blend as well. That is another very nice tool if you're doing watercolor and you don't get exactly a smooth wash with your first try. You can go back in with another wash with either the same color or like this one where I took that color and I blended the problem area. I took that color and blended it up a little bit higher, and that really smooths that area out. So you can absolutely smooth out inconsistent washes with layering of more consistent washes on top of it to counterbalance that. And that's really what this piece ended up being, is that I was just very careful about where I was putting the washes and making sure that they were layering on top of the exact color that I wanted to. And I was being very conscious of that. And another thing that I did better with this piece than the first one is I did the line work better. When I started that first one, I went straight in with the Micron pens and a brush and ink, which is pretty much my go-to, but some days are just kind of off days and it doesn't quite work. And that first piece, I didn't get the line work of the way I wanted his hair to look right off the bat, so that's why I filled it in black at the very beginning, but I really did want to get some of that texture that I drew in the sketch into the final one, and that was an unfortunate thing that I kind of messed that one up. So when I was doing the second one, I wanted to be very careful to preserve the sketchy quality that I had in my initial sketch that I was working on top of, because that's what made me want to do this one, is that I liked some of the quality that I was able to get in that. So I actually ended up just taking the same tool that I did to sketch the original one to do a little bit of a line work. I used my color erase in red, which is one of the tools that I usually use when I'm sketching. And it's great with watercolor because unlike graphite, it will stay pretty much where you put it. It's not going to blend into your watercolor like graphite can really lift up with the water and muddy down all of your colors. So I definitely suggest testing out the pencils if you're going to use pencils, but waxier ones tend to stay and be okay with watercolor. And this one was great for that. So I just went in at the very beginning to get a lay of the line work, and I wasn't exactly sure if I was going to go in with any sort of microns after I painted it, when I could clearly see what was going on and just add embellishments. I wasn't really sure at that point, but I did actually end up doing something that I've seen other people do, and I love the effect of it, and I've never really done it myself, but it's where you do line work with the watercolor itself. And the reason why that is so cool is because you can exactly color match it to what you want it to be, and that's one thing that I felt a little bit limited in with my line work, is that I wanted to incorporate colors into it. I really love the luminosity it can give to a piece and variety. And I really love that. But the problem is getting a variety of inks that are completely waterproof and very opaque. And I haven't quite found an ink that solves that yet. So this was a really nice way to incorporate that look in a way that I could do with the tools that I had right now. I did go in with a very thick mixture of the, not the ink, of the watercolor. So there was more pigment than water than what I normally use for when I'm doing more of a wash. So I mixed it up nice and thick. I tested it out on a scrap paper to make sure that it had the opacity that I wanted, and then I just went in and gave him a little bit more substantial line work. Before I did this though, I did go in with the micron a little bit at his eyes and his nose, and that's when I realized that I really did want to steer away from that and go more with a colored line work. And I love this look. I love doing it with the watercolor. The biggest drawback though is that I do have to do it at the end after I've done all the colors and all the ink washes, because it obviously will be affected each time you layer water on top of it. It will degrade it a little bit or blend it in depending on the pigment you're using. So that is one of those like last step things, which is definitely a reversal of the way that I like to work. I like working with the line work as the core structure and then move on from there. But it was kind of interesting to be able to work in a different way that made me think of it in a different process. So I absolutely will be doing more of this, especially in lighter, sketchier pieces like this, where I can not have a huge amount of line work that needs to be done, so I can make sure that it's just done well and tailored to that exact color that I need it to be. And that is pretty much it for today's video. I will try probably next Tuesday to do an actual sketching one, but this one I feel really good about the fact that I did actually have a first piece that was not a success. Because in many, many years before this, I have always worked with the moving forward mentality. I will do a piece, and if it sucks, I just feel bad about it, and I let that eat me up inside, and then I have that negative feeling going into the next piece. But I feel like I've definitely grown as an artist to be able to objectively look at a piece and know that, yes, I can do better, I can improve, I can move forward from this. And being able to look at that bad piece and look at the good finished piece, I can see that it's like, yes, I can do better. I can do better on all of my pieces. So yeah, I just feel really positive about this one because of that failure initially. But he is available, so if you wanted to own the original, I have him up on my shop. I have a link down in the description and in my end card, where you can check out my art shop where he'll be listed. And I'll have a link directly to the listing as well in the description. And another shout out, I have this other original that I did not do a video of, but if you'd like to own this one as well, it is also up in my shop. And yeah, that is pretty much it for today. Oh, and I do have a link to all of the tools and all the paints and everything that I use in today's video down in the description, so you can check those out as well. And that is it for today. I will see you guys in my next video, which will be on Thursday. Bye.